My name's Joe Smith. I've been working for Deckpro for 12 years now. Started off as an assistant engineer. More recently, I am now the technical manager at Deckpro. Deckpro are a pump provider to building facilities companies, building facilities management companies, as well as many other places, hospitals, prisons, schools, and the leisure industry. We supply, install, maintain, and repair pumps. And it's quite easy to overlook pumps and what they actually do, but normally providing drinking water, hot water, heating, cooling, waste management. Depending on the industry, they could be production, manufacturing. Pumps are everywhere, and are they're often not sort of on someone's radar until something goes wrong, and that's normally when we're contacted. But there's a lot of proactive work that can be done with pumps, and to make sure that they've got their sustainability and their efficiencies. And again, they're critical. Sometimes if you've got single point of failure, as in one pump in a system, in today's buildings, if you've got a massive high rise or you've got an office block or warehouse, one pump fails, that could be the difference between opening a business or having happy customers or making sure people have water that day. So it's pretty critical. There's a lot of innovation been made with pumps over the last few years. Systems designed in a way that there's not a single point of failure has been a big one. So if there's a pump doing a job, you normally have a two pump system, so standby or a duty pump and a backup pump. There's a lot of technology that's been introduced to remote monitoring of systems. So Xylem have a system where you can log on to booster sets and wastewater pump stations from the comfort of your desk, and you can actually see a real-time display of what's going on in those systems, and you can, before the customer knows, you can be flagging up issues. They've also developed pumps, Xylem again, this one, where they're intelligent wastewater pumps, which is not something you often put together, but these pumps are able to optimize energy efficiency and even self-cleaning cycles so that there's less maintenance to do on the pumps on a routine basis. And then other innovations would be the use of IE5 motors to increase energy efficiency, along with inverter drives, again, energy efficiency. And you can get a lot more from an inverter drive. You've got a lot more opportunity to pick up on failure. A lot of the technology is out there and underutilized. So a customer may often say, I want a pump replaced, and not understand that actually a little bit more investment in the technology, having an inverter drive, for example, would mean that you can actually increase efficiency. You can monitor the pump remotely. You can do lots of things. And often it's a cost, budget, and energy saving conflict. I understand, obviously, customers have got budget they need to stick to, but we can provide a payback. We can provide energy saving calculator so that you can put all those little additions in that we think would improve a system, like utilize its full capacity, and then you can sort of work out your paybacks on that. But that's often an area, inverter drives and BMS systems that control inverter drives, underutilized. So a Deckpro, when calculating energy savings, it's a bit of a fine art. We never guarantee it, because obviously, depending on what you're paying per kilowatt hour, depending on your unit cost, and depending on how much you actually run the pumps, it's difficult to give an accurate calculation. But we have certain calculators we can use to input the data as a customer would tell us, and then what we believe we can produce from a new pump, and we can give you a rough calculation. There's also, like Grundfos have on their sizing page on their website, you can also input data from a fixed speed pump or one of their E-range pumps, and they will tell you an energy saving and highlight the benefits of their using an E pump as well. it should be the biggest role at the moment. Sustainability, energy efficiency are the key drivers in the pump industry. To be fair, I think that the pump industry and the electric motor industry are kind of leading the way in their innovations. I know that I think it was last summer in the EU, I think they were the first in the world to put a new regulation in place that motors between 75 and 200 kilowatts must be IE4, and that is nearly the highest IE rating, which that, for those that don't know, is the rating where we're talking about efficiency, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. And the EU is the first to insist that motors over between 75 and 200 kilowatt, that level is mandatory. So there's definitely an emphasis in the motor world, and pumps are really close behind that. Obviously, motors and pumps, they are one and the same. It's the IEC standards are improving all the time, and that means that people can save a lot of money and improve the carbon footprint. Pumps are also being designed in a way that they're more maintainable, as well as being more efficient, and they are all recyclable as well. So should they fail one day, eventually they can be recycled, which is all being considered in the design of the products. Sustainability and energy efficiency are often something that clients have in mind. It's definitely a consideration. I'm not sure it's as important as obviously budgets and just keeping things going at times. I think the way the world is looking at net zero, carbon footprint, green, everything is pointing in a direction where if we can save energy, if we can make things greener, then we should probably bring that to the forefront of our minds a little bit more. With pumps and inverter drives, for example, you can retrofit a new inverter drive to an old pump system, and you can probably find savings there. It might not be a payback necessarily, or it might be a really long payback, but you can definitely start to reduce the energy consumption. And over time, I think the need, especially as energy costs rise, I think that will become more of a cost saver than an energy saver, but they're both tied together in that respect. In terms of pumps and systems are that when a pump system is working fine, it's often just a little thing in the corner that makes a bit of noise, or it's that little box on the wall that has some pretty lights. Maintenance or regular PPMs and servicing is often when someone opens those boxes up or undoes that pump, removes it from the system, and does a bit of a thorough investigation, preventing further distress or preventing distress happening. The trouble is, I think that sometimes our clients maybe don't act on servicing, or if this worked for a long time, don't feel it's necessary. And when those pumps fail, they tend to have a bigger. It's more than just the pump failing. It's more like there's a problem in the building. For example, a sewage pump fails. That could mean we've got serious floods. We've got backing up in areas that we don't want to happen. If a heating pump fails in the winter, building can go cold. It could be loss of hot water. And if a cold water booster set fails, for example, through lack of maintenance, that could be a whole building without water. And sometimes it's not an instant fix. So that's pumps themselves, if not looked after, can be really a challenge for our customers. The other issue would be not utilising their BMS controls, so a building management system, sometimes like a computer system within the building that looks at all the pumps and all the plant and makes it run in sync. There tends to be an outside source that looks after that, that's not often on site to make sure it's running efficiently. So our clients often have a problem with that, and that stops other bits of kit running, and we'd have to come in and bypass that. That tends to be the main areas I'm seeing that our clients have issues with. An example where I can think we've made some significant improvements in efficiency would be a splash park we done for a leisure customer. They look after swimming pools, and they've got like a splash park that's them and the local authority look after. And at night, they needed to keep the filtration of the pumps running, and during the day, that filtration needed to be running alongside their features. So we designed an inverter drive in a inbuilt cabinet that we installed next to two new pumps, and we was able to stop them from running two pumps at a time for their filtration. They now run off one pump all the time. They can swap over duty daily basis. And at night, we've programmed the inverter to run at half speed. So for 12 hours a day, that pump is half the cost of what it used to be. That was an instant energy saving, and it means the customer can share the duty of those pumps. And over time, that should mean they get double the lifespan. So over the next 10 years, I would expect that we are looking for efficiency will start outweighing budgets, or budgets will include efficiency to some extent. The cost of energy, although it seems to be come down a little bit, fluctuates so expensive at times that if we look at it as a fixed cost and you can actually bring your equipment cost down, it starts to balance out that actually you might be worth spending a bit more on the start on pumps, on drives, on smarter technology in the pumps. Even a new pump, IE5 rated pump, for example, you're going to get a 20% energy saving on an IE4 pump, and again on an IE3. It's just changing from modern technology will mean that money is saved. And I think that today's environment dictates that we're going to have to make savings on the equipment because we can't save money on energy anymore. And also, depending on what government we end up with and targets in place, we are a country that's looking at net zero, and we're looking at electric cars, we're looking at electric everywhere is electric. And I really think that mentality will only enhance and increase the speed that these new products are designed. And efficiency can be saved if you're looking at electric motors. There's a lot of new technology being put into cars. I wonder if one day we're going to start seeing some of that come back into the pump industry, because the whole world is going, we're going to go all electric. It kind of means electric motors are already ahead at the moment, but there's a lot more innovation that can be done. One thing that's that if you walk into a plant room, you'll often see in the summer, you'll have a chiller system where you've got two big chiller pumps, or one big chiller pump, depending on how big the building is, and they'll be running at full capacity. And unless there's some sort of control, unless the inverter is programmed correctly, unless there's some sort of external control, whether it be temperature, flow, whatever, that pump, and they're often pretty big, will run for 24 hours. It gets to the winter, it's shut off again, and then in the summer turn back on. What we'd insist in a situation like that, obviously it's down to the customer, but we'd say, well, actually, why don't we put an inverter on that? We can make that pump run when it needs to what it needs to. We're in the middle of June and the weather's not that great, it's not too hot, but these systems in these buildings, uncontrolled, will just run at 100%. What we would do at Deckpro is, if we was replacing that pump or maintaining that pump, or a suggestion might be, if we put an inverter drive to this pump, we can, on a cooler day like today, we can bring it right down. The demand's going to be a lot lower for cooling, for chilling, so we can run it lower. And then at night, we can maybe run it even lower, we can turn it off. And then we want it to come back on in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. That can all be done automatically, and it runs back on temperature demand at that point. Over a year, if you take a pump that's running 24 hours and you can just control it for 12 hours during the day, there's a lot of savings to be had. And obviously, all the time that pump's not running, it's increasing the lifespan of that pump. It's just not running. It's not doing its hours on the bearing. So, yeah, it's energy efficiency, also increasing lifespan of the motors. Obviously, not sales pitch, but get in touch with Deckpro in terms of, we can come and look at pumps, systems, advise, not quoted works. This is just our sales guys will come and have a chat, put service plans in place if needed. It's worth considering if a pump's noisy, react straight away. If it's pump's leaking, react straight away. Often a small problem is easy fix, quicker turnaround, and you're back up and running. Not acting straight away can lead to a bigger problem, and then be a longer lead time, longer repair. Ultimately, energy saving efficiencies, if you wanted to have a report done, so a full walk round by one of our guys, and point out everywhere you can have energy efficiency improved, whether that be inverter drives, changing the way the pumps are running, inducting the systems. We could do that as a package free of charge, just send that out to you guys, and then you can have a flick through and see where you're at. Also, small changes in changing fixed speed pumps to inverter driven, but in a small way. So often when we think of inverter drives, we're thinking big. I know like the Grundfos Magna pumps, they've got a little inverter built into them. You can install one of those pretty simply. It's not difficult. They're not too much expensive, and you can put that on an auto adapt function, and that'll kind of make energy savings instantly. What makes Deckpro different from other companies is the fact that we are solution based. As much as sometimes that solution is just replacing a pump, we often find that the pump is just a small part of a system, and actually it's the wider system that needs to be addressed, or maybe an adjustment to the pump rather than just a replacement. We might want to look for other options and more efficiencies. So that's where we stand out a little bit. We don't just provide a replacement pump, we provide a solution.